This is the Renault R5 Turbo 3E, and it's probably the best idea Renault's had since, well, since ever. It's a mad-looking, wide-arch mini supercar of a thing with 540 brake horsepower. It's also all-electric, but that eco-conscious drivetrain doesn't mean it's necessarily friendly to tyres. Today, we're going to go for a ride with a slightly mad rally driver to see if the promise lives up to the specs. Because last time we saw this car, it was essentially just a model. This is a living, breathing, tyre-frying prototype reality.
Now, the original Renault 5 Turbo was a homologation special for rallying. It had a rear-mounted 4-cylinder petrol engine, rear-wheel drive and only about 180 brake horsepower. But in a car that was built from tinfoil and positive vibes, that was quite a lot back in the day. And they looked almost square, with wide arches and lots of vents. Styled by Marcello Gandini, plus a cabin that was very of its time. We also happened to be here in Corsica during the Tour de Corse Historique, featuring the little classic R5 turbos that had success here back in the day with Jean Ragnotti, which seems more than appropriate. But this time, there's no homologation. This is just for fun and frolics to celebrate the new Renault 5, which happens to be electric.
But there's actually not much of the normal electric Renault 5 in here. It's got a completely custom chassis by sister company Alpine, and the entirety of the bodywork is carbon fibre. There are a lot of vents in the front. Now, I'm not sure it needs all of these because it is an electric car, but they are reminiscent of the old R5 turbos. You'll notice that this big vent down here shoves a lot of air through here, and it pops up out over the bonnet and over the windscreen. And then the headlights are actually more reminiscent of the old ones. The normal Renault 5 has two little fangs that come down here, which look a bit more modern, but this is much more like a 1980s Renault 5 Turbo. Then there's more vents here that go past the 20-inch wheels. They then exit through here. There's a vent that relieves some of the pressure. You'll notice that the windscreen has actually come quite a long way back, and that really messes with the proportions. It makes it look much more square and much less like a hatchback. There's also a longer wheelbase, and it is wider by quite a lot. And then at the back is where the business end starts. So you've got a vent here which pushes air straight through the back of the car, and another vent here which cools the rear hub motors. Now, the interesting thing about the Turbo 3 is that it has in-wheel motors, so you can manage the torque however you want. It's got 540 brake horsepower, and it will do 0 to 60 miles an hour in about 3.5 seconds and on to 168 miles an hour. There's a 70 kilowatt hour battery in the middle for good weight distribution, and that should be charged at about 800 volt or 350 kilowatts. So it's actually quite a normal modern EV. And then when you get to the back, well, that appears to be mostly fake Venturi, but it has got a rather nice bottom. But the big news is now we can see the interior in real life, and it is pretty fantastic. Now, ignore this bit because it's just a bit of prototyping, but the rest of it is sort of as it will be in the production car. So you've got a couple of 10-inch screens which have a few different sort of modes and different things which we're not allowed to play with, including a drift assist, and then this big, it's not a gear shifter, this is a hydraulic handbrake, which is essentially just more drift assist. Then on the steering wheel, you recognise this from an Alpine A110. It's got some different modes and different buttons, but it's actually a production steering wheel. And then in the middle, again, you'll recognise this from different Renaults and even Dacias. It's the gear selector to put it into drive, reverse and neutral. It's quite a fun interior because they've gone for quite a lot of personalisation options. You can have different tartans, different door cards, and then carbon bucket seats. A colour-coded roll cage in the back, which means that you've actually got quite a lot of boot space, although I wouldn't be putting my dog in there because he'd get squished against the back. The reason for all of that space is because the car's got in-wheel motors, so there's no extra electric motors in the back taking up the boot space. They're all within the hub. And generally, it feels quite racy. There's a good driving position, you're quite sat up, and it feels like a hatchback, even though it's not. I like this interior, and you can do loads of personalisation options. In fact, this car starts at £135,000 and apparently you can spec it to north of 200 just with the bits you add on. It'll be quite special seeing what people come up with.
Do you know what? I really like it. A different vibe to the usual electric fast things with a little bit more cheekiness. But it's all very well looking like you've got the hooligan gene. What about the reality? Well, yes, we're here in Corsica during the classic tour, so it would be rude not to experience one of the famously narrow and bumpy stages, even if it is from the passenger seat. This is Julien Saunier. He's a rally driver, and he's going to show us what a prototype Turbo 3E can really do. And he's told me he's going to take it easy on me.
Je vais te faire pleurer ta mère.
Sounds cool. I'll talk to you in a minute. So here we are, Renault 5 Turbo. Now this is all electric and it's got a carbon fibre body, so it weighs about 1,480 kilograms, which is actually quite light for this sort of thing because with a 70 kilowatt hour battery, there's about 280, 290 kilos of battery down in the floor. Ugh! Interestingly, this carbon fibre body is one of the squarest in production, so the length in relation to the width makes it the squarest car that's currently made. It's very blocky, it feels very on the road and actually quite light. Now one of the reasons for that is because it's rear drive, but it has two in-wheel motors. Now in-wheel motors obviously sit in the hub of the wheel, and they give you really fine control of the traction. This is on a cliff, good God. That's going to that rear axle, so you can torque vector, you can mess about with the car, you can make it tuck in harder by slowing the inside wheel and overspeeding the outside wheel. Gives you really fine motor control, and it seems to work. Also, the brakes seem to bring this car down quite well. It's very bumpy. Julien is doing a fantastic job of not throwing us off the cliff, and it feels like it's got lots of grip and is very light. He's using very small steering inputs, and that means it's going around the corners with plenty of traction. There's also quite a few things different to a normal Renault 5 because this chassis is obviously made by Alpine. So it's got the windscreen moved quite a lot further back. Now this car has drift assist, so you can actually plug it into the system and make the car do little skids. He's also got more drift assist in terms of this hydraulic handbrake, which sits vertically, so it's easy to grab. You can yank it back and do nice little pulls, which locks the back wheels and initiates the drift. The thing is, this isn't a supercar looking thing, but it looks like a supercar. It's got those proportions, the wide arches. This is a prototype, and it's still got some chops. It's quite tight around here, but this is really going for it. It's got a lot of grip, especially on corner exit. I can't wait to drive it. This is just great. And also, this is quite a bumpy Corsican mountain road, and it's handling it really well. It's remarkably soft. The good thing is, when you get to your car parking space somewhere in town, you want to do a thing called a hard park. Now, a hard park is when you basically grab this handle and do this. And fin. Thank you, buddy. The Turbo 3E. My first impressions, it's quite quick, but it feels quite soft. This is a really bumpy Corsican road, and it was handling the bumps very well. Also, it seems to have quite a lot of turning. It tucks really fast, so it feels more like a hot hatch than anything that feels more supercar-y. It doesn't steer as much like a supercar where you follow the car in. This tucks in really quickly. It's really short wheelbase, so when it's really twisty, it seems to really work. It's got the power. The skill level is on his part. I think it still needs a little bit of refinement, but this is going to be a hell of a fun car when you get it on a real road.
It appears that the Turbo 3E really has got some guts, and it appears that it's all working, and working quite well. This thing is an absolute little terror. It still needs quite a bit of development. Customers aren't going to get their cars for a while, but the bones of something unique are there.
More of this, please, Renault.